What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's happening with the economic calendar going into tomorrow as we have more data coming out, not to mention more news about Tesla. But before I break these doubles information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit $500, you guarantee 20 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon in just about 4 days. Anyways, for the market, as you guys can see, Tesla has a nice double bottom like structure, and now it's trying to kind of bounce off this nice support around this 168 zone. So overall, we're holding it very, very well, and there is more upside potential for the stock. But it depends on if Tesla can try to break this resistance above this 190 area or not, because the last time we hit this 190 zone, we didn't see a little rejection. So I'll break down more details about this in just a few minutes. But I first want to talk about what's going on with our economy and very important data. So, as you guys know, tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, June 18th, 2024, in the US markets. Now, please note that about 15 minutes before the market opens, we have the industrial production numbers, other things involving the manufacturing numbers, all coming out in the morning. So, we'll just have to see how production numbers are looking thus far. So, it might cause some volatility in the markets for, I would say, very, very close to when the market ends up opening. And then once this volatility ends up coming, I would say there's going to be a continuation of this around 10 o'clock a.m. 30 minutes after the market opens, we have more business inventories data and then Barkin from the Fed giving a speech. And then after that, it's just a bunch of Fed speakers throughout the day. At 11:40 a.m., we have Collins, we have Kugler giving a speech alongside Logan. Then we have more of these Fed speakers just throughout the day. So we'll just have to see what this causes for the markets. So watch for some high volatility in the morning, then watch for a bunch of Fed speakers as time goes on. And we'll see what all of this leads to, at least for us moving forward. That's going to be very important for how we end up moving. Now, for other factors, the market's becoming fearful because once again, as the market's going higher and higher and higher, there's a lot of people in, a lot of these bears, for example, who are starting to kind of capitulate a bit, and people are becoming more fearful. There's some people who are starting to just, close their shorts. Other people are starting to buy more of them, and people are just all over the place. They're very confused about what the market is doing, and that's the reason why we're seeing some indicators saying the market is very fearful. Other indicators are showing that there's still bullish momentum, as we're seeing like extreme greed making up the majority of momentum indicators. So it's very, very crazy. Very wild price action thus far. The puts and call option positioning actually dipped a bit before it's trying to come back up, showing signs that there's a little bit more shorting that's still going on. There's still put buyers out there, and that's despite the fact that the market's kind of performing the way it is. So that's something else that's very interesting, something else that's worth noting. Market volatility is also quite neutral, kind of in the middle, not really doing much. So we'll just have to see what this leads to. Now, for other factors, please note that this is what the earnings calendar looks like. It's not anything too significant coming out for this week. We just have a few more like Lazy Boy and a few others. And we also have like CarMax, at least for Friday, but everything else is very minor, so I'm not going to talk as much about that. As far as Tesla goes, there's been some big news that came out that the Model 3 long range has gone to access to the federal tax credit. It's now starting at about $40,000. That's some very, very bullish news for Tesla because this is now incentivizing a lot more growth. There are lots of headlines coming out that, once again, supply was exceeding demand for the Tesla Model 3. And I saw a lot of negative talk about this, and that's because of the fact that before it wasn't really qualifying for the federal tax credit, at least since the year started. Now things are shifting over here because of some changes over here. This actually has to do with the increasing restrictions of the battery material and components that were sourced for its eligibility. So there have been a lot of changes being made for it to get it to once again qualify. So that's actually great news. And that's actually confirmed by both Tesla and the IRS. So great news, at least for Tesla moving forward. After the tax credit, it's roughly about $40,000. That's actually only $1,000 more than the Model 3 RWD, which is still not eligible because it uses different battery cells from China. So that's something worth noting. There's also been other variants of the Model 3 which have some price cuts. So that's very, very important. But I just want to say that this is a big victory for Tesla. This is going to incentivize a lot more growth and a lot more sales, especially as we approach the summer. Great, great, great stuff for Tesla. Now, there's also news coming out. Tesla is suing a former supplier for stealing battery trade secrets, but they claim the contrary. So very, very interesting stuff right here. Is suing Matthews International, a former machinery supplier, for stealing trade secrets related to its battery production. And once again, it's the other way around, at least in their opinion. Matthews is saying that Tesla who's trying to steal its technology. So it's all over the place. We'll see what this leads to. This is actually going to be very important. Tesla filed a lawsuit in California against Matthews International, which describes as a supplier of Tesla's proprietary dry electrode battery manufacturing technology. So that's something else that's very important. They also selected Matthews back in 2019 as one of its suppliers for equipment. And now with these legal, disputes that are going on, we'll see what ends up happening moving forward. That's going to be very important. So I can't wait to see how this progresses. Now, there's also been some talk about Elon Musk. Elon Musk has been saying once again that the Roadster is going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to be able to fly. I don't think this has to be taken literally, but this is kind of funny because some articles are kind of trying to, they're kind of confused about what he means by that. He literally is trying to tell us that it's going to be so powerful and it's going to have so many capabilities that's going to blow people away. And I can't wait to see when this is unveiled. It's going to be an absolute monster. Musk is saying that they're radically increasing the design goals for the new Roadster. There will never be another car like this, if you could even call it a car. So he's talking about how it's like a jet on wheels. It's absolutely incredible, has so much power, and it's going to exceed crazy limitations. It's going to be able to go 0 to 60 in under a second, according to Elon Musk. It's going to be able to essentially fly. So very, very cool stuff. I can't wait to see how this ends up developing. Can't wait to see what they end up announcing about this. Now, with these new EVs coming out, maybe one of these could have been, the Roadster as well, when Tesla was kind of like showing us that cloth over their different potential models. Maybe we'll see how things end up going for them. That's very, very awesome news. We have 109 million in volume. We got bullish news also because of not just these FSD developments, but also because in China, we're seeing a lot of progress for FSD, and also because of the fact that Warren Buffett ended up selling a small part of his BYD shares. That also affected Tesla to some extent. I'm not saying it's like it means anything too crazy from his end, because it was a very, very small stake he kind of cut. He used to have a 7% stake in BYD, now he has a 6.9% stake, not really much of a difference. But still, I was seeing a lot of headlines about that. But for now, it doesn't matter, guys. Tesla's still bullish looking, and we still have some very, very nice amounts of buyers. Despite more buyers coming in, short volume is going up to about 66%. So there's a little bit more shorting than before, at least for Tesla. Right now, Cantor Fitzgerald still has an overweight rating for Tesla, which is good news. There's still potential for it, and there's still a lot of optimism. Wedbush also is reiterating that Tesla is going to outperform the markets. The price price ratio is also trying to climb just a bit. So that's actually a bit of an improvement. That is showing some life. And then in terms of seasonality, I just wanted to make it very clear that Tuesdays tend to be green about 52% of the time. And we tend to see more volatility around 10 o'clock a.m. and also around noon and also around 3 o'clock p.m. So we'll just have to see how things go from there. Besides that, June tends to be a strong month. And so far, we're seeing some improvements in Tesla for the month. So we'll see how things go. But now let's just break down the charts and talk about how things are looking. So when you look at the 4-hour time frame, we have a nice double bottom like structure that's developing right over here. And we're actually trying to push higher looking at the momentum that's building. So we're seeing a nice increase in the volume, more buyers stepping in. And we have a nice symmetrical looking structure right here. So we have like a bottom here, a bottom here. It's kind of symmetrical looking. This would suggest Tesla's going to go up to 200 very soon. But we have to break past this high for confirmation. So for now, from the way I see it, Tesla does look more bullish. It has more potential. We'll see if we pull back a bit in the pre-market before we try to continue higher. But overall, it's still holding up well. Tesla's also heavily dictated by the news, and so we'll see what news comes out for tomorrow. But from a technical standpoint, we still look more bullish. When I zoom out even more, when you look at this, we have a nice looking inverse head and shoulders pattern. That's a good sign for Tesla. So I still see potential for us to try to push up into the 200s, but we'll have to wait and see what happens, at least for the short term. So going into tomorrow, okay, know that Tesla has resistance currently around this 188 zone. I'll be watching that very, very carefully just to see how we end up performing around here. And then if we break through that, we'll be looking for a push all the way up to about 190, then 192. If we end up rejecting, make sure you watch critical supports all the way down towards 185. If that fails us, watch 182 and then 180. So overall, looking at the way we're moving, there is more upside potential. The 4 hour is building more strength. And I think that there's a good chance that we could continue to push all the way up towards this 190 area. So I favor upside a little bit more, at least for Tesla. That's looking a bit more probable. So we'll have to wait and see if that ends up being the case. But make sure you watch this resistance just to see how Tesla ends up reacting. So going into tomorrow, we could dip a little bit in the beginning. In the morning, look for a little dip on Tesla before we try to bounce a bit. And then I think there's a good chance we might try to test this high around this 190 area. As long as there's no bad news, we're going to likely do that. And then we'll see if Tesla can break this or not. But overall, the technicals still remain bullish in my eyes. There's no sign of this kind of rejecting a bit. So look for a little dip and a bounce. I think we might dip a little bit in the morning, retest 185, then try to bounce back up. And we're going to see some buyers try to defend Tesla and push it to these new highs, looking pretty bullish overall. Now for SPY is pushing very nicely, which is awesome, but Like I said before, we've been pushing and pushing and pushing without much of a pullback. And generally, when this happens, you want to be very careful. So SPY managed to break past 444. So we're still looking bullish thanks to that. And as long as we try to hold above 547.5 to 548, which is where I have that yellow line marked, we're going up to about 550 most likely. And if we end up losing 546, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 544, in my opinion. Looking at the chart, this looks a bit more bullish, so it does favor another attempt to push for 548. If we break the high from today, we're going up to 550, and then we'll have to see if we reject or not. So watch that very, very carefully. But overall, we are looking more bullish on SPY. We might and likely will go a little higher one more time to test this resistance, and we'll have to see how we end up reacting. If it breaks, we'll be looking for 550. Overall, the trend is looking bullish, and this chart has more upside potential. For a few more out there, we also have Nvidia. Nvidia is holding up very well. We're actually kind of in the middle between supply and demand. We have resistance currently at 131.5, and we have support currently at 130. I think that there's a good chance that Nvidia might try to pop a bit and try to retest and grab liquidity again or in this 131.5 area, excuse me, guys. But the issue is we have this big red bar that kind of formed today. And this could be a sign that we're about to see a trend shift. There's a possibility. So we need to break the all-time high. We're going to break the high of the day, 134, to continue to remain bullish. Otherwise, we might just establish a lower high and start dipping down to fill some of these gaps. So I'll be watching this very carefully. The 4-hour is showing that we're losing some momentum, so I think there might be a little pop tomorrow. If we fail to break this high, look for a lower high in the 132s. So maybe it pops to 132 and then starts rejecting. It's the most likely possibility. And if we end up losing support at 130, we might end up coming down to fill our gap all the way down to 125. So just be careful. But I see a little bit of a pop coming, and then we'll have to see if we break the tough resistance or not before we continue lower as the most likely possibility. For Bitcoin is holding up decently, but I just want to call out we have to hold a key support. We need to hold 66,377. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 65,000 again. If we hold 66,370, then we're going to look for a push for 67,000 flat. My gut is telling me it's going to go a little higher to 67,000, and then we'll just have to see how it reacts. But I find that to be very, very probable. That's what I'm seeing for Bitcoin, Nvidia, SPY, and the others. How about for the QQQ? We're still bullish looking. There's no sign of this breaking down. If you look at this, it's still pushing higher, but we have to be a little bit careful as we get higher to that new resistance levels. So, in my opinion, if we end up losing, okay, 484, we could be dipping back down to 482.5. If we continue to push, watch 486's resistance. If we break this, we're going all the way up towards 488 as the most likely possibility. So I think we could break out a bit more. We're going to likely test 486, but watch to see if we get a rejection or not. I do see a little bit more upside potential coming. And then we'll see what the move is, especially depending on Nvidia and the others. But as of right now, the trend is still bullish. There's potential for us to get a little touch of these higher levels. And we'll see if we reject or not, but there is going to likely be a little push coming, at least temporarily. Apple's also holding up very well. If we end up losing key support, if we end up losing this critical level right here, if we lose 215, watch 214, losing that would turn us a little bit more bearish, and we could be looking for a move back down to 210. If we break and hold above 218, we're looking for 220. As of right now, it looks like it's going to try to go up towards 220, 218 to 218 to 220, excuse me, before we try to see some kind of rejection or something like that. So we'll see, but look for a little bit more upside on Apple and watch what the reaction is. That's the most likely possibility. NEO is also looking like it wants to bounce. If we break past 4.5, look for 4.6 plus to get close to our 50 EMA. So I do see a potential bounce coming. Anyways, that's it for my video for at least the main ones I typically go over. I'm going to now talk very briefly about the rest of these. So with that being said, looking at Palantir, we're going to be testing 25 as our resistance. If we end up getting a rejection, we're going to be dipping back down a bit. If we break through this, we'll be looking for a push all the way up towards 26. There's a good chance it's going to go a little higher. So look for a little rejection and move back down to the 24s before it tries to continue higher towards 26. That's a very, very strong possibility in my opinion. For Supermicro, we're looking a bit more bullish. Supermicro has resistance around this 902 area, and we have support at 880. If we lose 880, we're going to be dipping down to 860. If we break past 900, we're going to be pushing higher. This looks a bit more bullish. Look for a little push as a stronger possibility. So I favor 900 plus is coming. For Rivian is actually looking a little bit more bullish on the 4-hour. If we manage to hold above 10.89, we're going to be looking for a pump for 11.19. So that's looking a bit more probable in my personal opinion. For SoFi is trying to turn a bit. We're going to be looking for a test of 6.6. If we end up rejecting here, we're going to be dipping back down to 6.25. But to me, it looks like it's going to try to hit 6.6 is the most likely possibility. The IWM Russell 2000, as long as we're above 200.5, we break that tomorrow. Look for a test of 202. Watch to see if we reject off 202 or not, but we're most likely going to go up there. We'll have to see what the move is from there. For AMD, we're going to be looking at 159 as resistance. If we break this, we're going up to about 161. If we fail to do so, we're going to reject. As of right now, it looks like it might try to push a bit higher towards 161. For ARM is kind of consolidating, kind of trading sideways. So we're not really doing a whole lot. We have resistance currently around this 162 area. We have support currently around 155. We're kind of stuck in the middle, going back and forth, not really doing a whole lot. So I favor some sideways price action, at least for now. And then we'll have to see what happens after that. Coinbase, it's not looking that great. It's trying to turn a bit. We have to try to break 245. If we break that, 250 is coming. And if we lose 243, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 240 all over again. So we're kind of in the middle. My gut is something's going to pop a bit and establish a lower high and start dipping back down. So we could get close to 250, then reject. That's the most likely possibility, but we'll see how it goes. Amazon's trying to push. It's actually looking more bullish to me. If we hold 184, we're going up to 186 tomorrow. If we fail to hold this, we could be dipping back down to 182. My gut tells me it's going to go up towards about 186 if we hold 184. For Meta, we're trying to turn bullish. If we continue to push, we're going to be looking for 510. If we reject here, we're going to be dipping down to 502. My gut tells me it's going to try to go up to 510 for another retest just to see how things end up going. Watch it very carefully. Microsoft looks like it wants to go up to 450. We'll see if it rejects or not, but it looks like it has a little bit more upside coming, at least moving forward. For Google is going to likely try to pop a bit. So we're going to be looking for a test of about 180. And if we reject, we're going to be dipping down towards 178. My gut tells me it's going to be kind of in the middle as we have a nice slanted head and shoulders. Just be careful. So if we reject here, we just have to hold 177. If we lose that, I think if we lose the 50 EMA, we're going to likely start dipping on Google. There's a head and shoulders like pattern. But if we start pushing and holding 180, we could push higher. Just just know that 180 is tough resistance. So there's a good chance it might reject. So just be careful on Google. I'm seeing some weakness on the charts. For GameStop, we're just trading sideways within the range. We have 25 as support and then 22.5, which is our 200 EMA. We're going to likely continue to trade sideways on GameStop. Look for a little bit of a decline towards our 200 EMA before it tries to bounce, and some sideways price action for now. Although there was potential building, for now, after the shareholder meeting, it's kind of like dipping a bit. AMC also has this gap to fill below, and it's kind of dipping a little bit off like a head and shoulders like structure. So I do see a risk of it kind of dipping towards 4.5. Just be careful, guys. I'm seeing that on AMC. DJT is continuing to fall. Looks more bearish to me. I think 32 is likely coming. This looks more bearish, so it does favor downside. So just be careful. And that's looking a lot more probable. For the VIX is also kind of flat. It's not really doing much, so we have to watch to see if we get a breakout or not. If we break past our 200 EMA at 13.5, then this could start shooting higher, which would be a bearish signal for the markets. If we lose 12.5, however, so if we lose 12.5, we're bearish, and this could mean that the market has a little bit more upside coming for the gap fill. The market's going to cause this, of course. So watch and see. Do we lose 12.5 because the market's going to push higher, or do we break? Does the VIX push for above 13.5 because the market's about to turn bearish? We'll have to wait and see. The 10-year treasury yield is indecisive. We have a gap above and also below. It depends on what the Fed says tomorrow, so we'll wait and see what that causes. And then last but not least, the dollar is dipping a bit, but we're at the 20 EMA around 105.3. We'll see if it bounces or not. It's looking a little bit more bearish, so I'll just give this some time and just see how things go. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day, and peace out.